So recovery from addiction and alcoholism is a multifaceted uh, project, if you will, and for many of us in the 12-step world, we recognize that living a spiritually based life is key. That and so we get that it's key. It really is, and yet looking at some of the of really digging deep into our past, or looking at ourselves, self-examination, self um, uh, exploration is important, and it's I think that what I want to say about my own story. I mean, today is International Day of the Women, and of women, and I it's interesting because last night for me I spent 3 hours on the phone with a fella and we went, who works with people in recovery and works with people in counseling, and we went deep into, somehow the topic of trauma came up, and we were talking about trauma and recovery, and it wasn't a planned session. But I've been kind of praying about it. I've been saying, I know that I have things in my life that, for years I kind of denied, and it was around my mom. So I mean, if the kind of the foundation relationship with women in my life started with my mother, right? But mom was like a sacred, you know, no, no disrespect, but like a sacred cow in a way that you can't talk about that, and because as years went on, she became really the kind of the martyr in the family, and her a lot of her thing was, poor me and self-pity, and mom got such a bad deal and all of that, and so there wasn't any room for me to kind of look at that relationship, or at least not in my thinking there wasn't, because how can I speak of that relationship, and for those of you in the 12-step world, you know that I did my, 4 and 5, and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, and my ninth step with my mother. Over the years, I went, and did a number of ninth steps with my mother, and I never realized why, she couldn't, she wouldn't let me do that. I would come and to see her, and to arrange a quiet time that we could have together. And I did it a number of times because I just never felt like there was always something that, hi, Jason. Yes, it is. We're going to, my friend Jason says, "Good morning, David. A beautiful day to recognize the amazing women in our lives." And yes, yes. But actually, I'm talking about, a really troubled relationship that affected every relationship I ever had with women. And that was a relationship with my mom. And my mom was not well. And when it came, to me making amends over, and I attempted, I could, there just never seemed to be an openness. Not until last night when I talked to my friend did I realize that, it was impossible for her to let me say, to make my apologies, or to try to amend my behavior as a youth. I was, not an easy young man to bring up, and a lot of anger, and a lot of, but now that I look at it, a lot of it stemmed out of the relationship that I had with my mother. And I'm not blaming my mom. I'm just saying that she was not well. She really was not well. She was, in and out of psych wards, and she had, alcoholism in every area of her family, and she was terribly angry with men. Uh, and I just happened to be one of them, a little boy, but still, I was one of them, and I got caught in the crossfire of that. And so my whole idea about life was that men were not to be trusted. Men could not, you know, um, there was a whole conversation that happened about my father over, and over, and over, and over again, and my grandfather, and, 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 uh, So that was formative. It really was, and there was also things that I'm not going to discuss here, but that were certainly traumatic and violent and so it wasn't safe. But how do you speak about that? I mean, in today's society, it's almost impossible, because things, it has been. So I'm just talking about it a bit because I think that for every one of us, you know, if we don't take the time to really look honestly at that relationship, um, and its effects on us, and of course, what came out of our conversation last night was that my mom wasn't well. That's just a fact. It wasn't well, and she wasn't well, and she said things that no mom should say to a little boy, and did things that shouldn't have been done really, so yeah, so I get that um, healing is happening. I thought that I didn't understand about doing trauma work, that just discussing it is a big relief, and um, the man who I spent time with last night suggested I find a safe woman to talk with it about. Not somebody who's I'm interested in, or or not somebody I'm in relationship with, but a safe woman who's done her work, who isn't still angry at men, or and has found her freedom, and um, so that's the next step in this part of this recovery. It's a never-ending process. It's funny that in the 12 steps, for all of us, we're always growing closer towards this relationship with a higher power, but we're also always cleaning up the mess. It never seems to end. There's always stuff to clean up, and that's the process. And being honest enough to ask for help, and being honest enough to let it in, willing enough to let it in, has been beautiful for me lately. So, in the end, um, I love my mom, and she's passed now, and there's no question. I get her sacrifice. I get that her life probably in many ways wasn't what she had imagined or pictured as a little girl. I think that she had disappointment. You know, she also grew up in a time. She was born in the 20s, right? So she grew up in a time when life wasn't necessarily easy for women, and she I think she was born the women didn't even have the vote. So many things have changed. Like a huge amount of things have changed in the last 100 years, because she was born. Um, I think she over a little over 100 years ago. I know, and so she came through quite a time, and I have a lot more empathy for my mother now, and more love for her, and more understanding of her pain. You know, she couldn't go to YouTube, and kind of, there wasn't the information wasn't available. She really found her connection with her higher power in Christianity in her later years, and became a huge prayer warrior. And I think in the end lifted us all up in so many ways. So anyway, how are things with you and your mom? Do you have anything that you want to say about that? And I'd love to hear your story, because a lot of what my focus here now is on family healing. From the family. My heart goes out to moms. So many moms are recognizing that their son or their daughter is an alcoholic or an addict. That you know what can they do? How can they help? It's almost impossible to do anything other than just love them and pray for them, and not enable them. So I encourage moms to speak about their relationship with their kids and their relationship with their mom. And let's talk about that today. Okay, love you guys. I'm going to read, like I do every day, from this little book, the 24-hour day book. And what is the date today? It is the 8th of March. March the 8th. And This little book I've been reading from is the 24-hour day book. It's a beautiful little book. We must go to AA meetings, it says, regularly. This book was written in 1954, and just an amazing piece. We must go to AA meetings regularly. We must learn to think differently. We must change from alcoholic thinking to sober thinking. We must re-educate our minds. We must try to help other alcoholics. We must cooperate with God by spending at least as much time and energy on the AA program as we did on drinking. We must follow the AA program the best of our ability. So this is a I remember when I first sobered up, and I wondered what I had to change, and the fellow that I was spending time with at the time, my sponsor, he said, "You only have to change one thing. That's everything." And it's been a lifelong process. I'm still, you know, still in it, still doing it, still. Here, if I can get these glasses to sit straight. There we go. Meditation for today. The joy of true fellowship shall be mine in full measure. I will revel in the joy of real fellowship. There will come back a wonderful joy if I share in fellowship now. Fellowship among spiritually minded people is the embodiment of God's purpose for this world. To realize this will bring me a new life joy. If I share in mankind's joy and travail, a great blessing will be mine. I can truly live a life not of earth, but a heaven life here and now. Yeah, fellowship, baby, is so important in the 12-step world. I pray that I may be helped and healed by the true spiritual fellowship. I pray that I may sense his presence in spiritual fellowship with his children. So that's the deal, fellowship. And, doing the work. And so to all the women in my life today, happy International Women's Day. I'm learning still to see the world differently, and I recognize that for many men my age, we were brought up in a different time, and we've had to shift. We've had to be open to change around our perceptions, our relationships with women in our lives, and I'm grateful for the change that's happened to us all over these years, and the world has become, in my experience, a more amazing place because of the openness, the inclusion, the love, the willingness to see each other as whole and complete, and to also see each other as growing, changing. I used to have a teacher, Paul, and Paul would say, "Don't hold anybody in an old place. Imagine when you meet, you're meeting as if for the first time." And what we do with our egos sometimes is we do hold people in an old place. We have a judgment, or we think we know them. Just imagine that everybody you meet today is like for the first time. And let go of everything you think you know about them. Every judgment that you think you have. Just let it all go. Okay. Hope that subject wasn't too much for you today. But I find it not like the easiest thing to talk about. Okay, let's do a quick meditation. Just 3 minutes. Just going to drop in, and I call it sitting. You can call it whatever you want: meditation, sitting, pause. We're going to just drop in for a minute. We're going to drop in and be one with the moment. For all of us, our wish is to become more spiritually connected, more spiritually aware, more conscious, whether we know it or not. The emptiness that we're looking to fill can only be filled with that connection with now, with the one. And practicing even short meditations helps us to get there. None of the answers cannot be found on the outside. So drop in, be here now, experience this moment. One of the best ways to do that is to feel into our bodies, to feel and become aware of or conscious of or focus on our feet, our ankles, and our calves, and our knees. Just drop into the sense of this being, our thighs and hips. Just feel the body. You're here now in the body. Our spine, just feel the energy flowing up and down your spine to your neck as it flows into your head. And just expand inside of your skull. And breathe into your chest. Feel your arms, hands. Experience your full body. Bring your energy, your focus, your awareness into your body, to your lungs. Find where your heart is. Bring your focus into your heart. And maybe drop down and bring your focus into your belly. Feel it move out as you breathe. Just breathe into your belly. And bring your attention, your focus up into your neck, and your throat, and your jaw, to your nose, into your eyes. Even though they're closed, just let them relax. And focus for a minute on your forehead, just between and slightly above your eyebrows. As you drop into the stillness, if thoughts come, just gently let them go. Watch them and let them go. Okay. There you are. Just stay there if you like. Love you. Love you, love you. Thank you.